there. I am so glad you're joining me today. So if you're new, I'm Jess Cording. I'm a registered dietitian and author, and today I am bringing you one of my favorite easy make-ahead breakfast recipes. Every month we've been doing these IG Live recipe demos, part of my WTF to Eat series, where I feature recipes to nourish your mind and your body, keep you energized, even when life is crazy. So this is one of my personal favorites because it feels like extra special, even though it's super easy to make and you can stash it in the freezer. And it's been really helpful for me as a parent because I have so much less time to prepare and eat food than I used to. And that was one of the things I knew was going to come up, but wow, like it has been such an adjustment. So, my daughter, we have this routine where I get her up in the morning. And then, usually I try to get up before her. I would say that works most of the time. But, that's when I will sneak in a workout, do a sweep of my work emails maybe, or do line edits on a project or something. And then I get her up, I give her breakfast, I eat my breakfast, and then we start our day. So I used to really love making breakfast and then eating it and having this whole ritual. And that is just out the window right now, maybe one day. But I've been finding that I love recipes they're really delivering on the protein, fiber, and healthy fats I need to keep me going, but that take minimal effort in the moment. So today we're making breakfast brownies. If you follow me, you probably see me share these in my stories for a while now. So yeah, it was time for a proper recipe demo. So super easy. I have the oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are gonna start with our wet ingredients first. So, okay, I have here about a cup of liquid egg whites. These are just great for easy protein and texture. They make these, one of my big annoyances with quote unquote healthy brownies is often they're super dense and dry and just not enjoyable. So this helps add moisture, helps give it a nice fluffy texture, actually something that you'll want to eat. And I hate how the pictures, they're so misleading. They look really good. I mean, because so many of the photos are AI now. And then you actually make it and you're like, oh, this is terrible. Okay, so then I have a quarter cup of whatever nut butter you want to use. I actually technically today am using tahini. I have a chocolate tahini that is just absolutely delicious, not too high in sugar, that I've been slowly working my way through in different recipes and stuff. So adding that, but I've made this with almond butter, peanut butter. You could use, I haven't made it with cashew butter, but I'm sure that would be delicious too. But whatever you have on hand, but just make sure you whisk it really well. I usually end up mixing it, warming up the nut butter in the microwave so it gets nice and smooth. So that seems to help a lot. And then next up, we have some, this is super important. We have some Greek yogurt. This is also gonna add protein. I have about 2/3 of a cup here. So that is going to go in. And this also adds moisture too. Greek yogurt is magic in baking because it gives a lovely texture and nutrition. And it's just really easy to work with. We do a lot of yogurt in my house in various contexts. At least my daughter and I do. It's disgusting. If you looked in our fridge, you'd be like, do they own a yogurt company? There's so much yogurt happening all the time. All right, so whisk that together. And then I have pumpkin puree. So I love using pumpkin in baked goods because it adds, again, moisture. You're sensing a theme here. Also, but pumpkin I love because it's a great way to sneak in some extra antioxidants like vitamin A and vitamin C. It's a great source of potassium. It also has, words here, parent, fiber. Fiber is excellent for digestion, keeping you full by stabilizing blood sugar. So we're adding about a cup of pumpkin puree. And I knew that I would forget something as I was prepping my ingredients, so I am going to go grab some ground flaxseed because that is also going to add some texture to this recipe. So bear with me one sec while I just grab that. I always forget something. All right, so we've got our ground flax happening here. Actually, I'm going to set this aside for a moment. I'm going to add this briefly, or shortly. I can't talk today. And then I have about a quarter cup of almond milk, unsweetened. You can use whatever milk you have. This is just to help with combining everything. Again, for texture. All right, and next up, now I'm going to add the ground flax. So flax, it kind of forms, like if you might see it often. I mean, I love it as a dietitian because it's a really good source of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids as ALA. Also adds a little fiber, a nice warm flavor, but not aggressive. And it also, in baked goods, it's really nice for binding things together. It forms kind of like a gel-like consistency. So you may see it sometimes used in vegan recipes as an egg replacement. If you mix ground flax with water and let it sit for a few before adding it. We're just putting it right in the mix here. All right, and then next up, to add a little boost of protein, I am adding some unflavored whey protein powder, about a half cup here. I get a lot of questions about like what's the best protein powder. I actually just wrote an article about this for Forbes. And I think you have to go with what works for you and your goals. But I personally, I just love grass-fed whey. Dairy is okay with my body, so I enjoy a lot of it. And I just find that with whey protein, I like that it's a complete protein, meaning that it has all of the essential amino acids that we need, that we have to get from food. It's also just really palatable, really versatile. And I find that whey protein isolate, even if you don't tolerate like a glass of milk or ice cream or like a lot of heavy cheeses very well, I find that tends to be pretty well tolerated. But that said, you could use whatever protein powder you like in here. I have only used whey protein in this recipe, so I can't speak to the texture, like the final result of, of other protein powders like plant-based or collagen or things of that nature. But, play around with it, see what works for you. All right, next up I'm adding cocoa powder. I have a quarter cup here, and this is just for flavor. Texture, adds a little texture, a little bit of fiber, a little bit of antioxidants. A lot of good stuff happening here as I get cocoa powder all over my counter. All right, I only added a couple tablespoons of the almond milk. I'm gonna add a little bit more, see if we need more. This is a very, it's a very like wet batter. That's the word I need. That's why so while I've been doing this, I have an 8x8 pan. You could line it with parchment. I decided just to spritz it with some avocado oil, just a neutral oil, just to get it ready for baking. Sometimes I use parchment paper for easier cleanup, but for this recipe, I like the neat edges that I get when I don't use parchment paper. It's more like a visual thing. All right, next up, I'm using a granulated sweetener. I personally love monkfruit and allulose. Those are my go-tos, but I have about 5 tablespoons here. You can use a little more, a little less, depending what works for you. I like to go middle of the road, so we're gonna add that in. I like the allulose and the monkfruit because they do not have the glycemic impact that we get from sugar, from sucrose. I also like that they are naturally occurring, do not have the same like digestive ramifications or like experience of like sucralose or aspartame. I don't get a headache from them. I find stevia, I've worked with a lot of clients over the years who do find that stevia just doesn't sit right with them. So you use what works for you. I'm using a granulated sweetener just because a liquid sweetener that makes the batter a little too wet, but so you could adjust if you wanted to use a wet batter, or a wet sweetener, a liquid sweetener, just adjusting the ratios of some of the other liquids in this recipe. So next up, we just have some oat flour. Sorry, I've been up since 3 a.m., guys. It's just like one of those days. So I made this just by grinding up instant oats in a food processor. You could buy oat flour, but I feel like it's one of those things where it's like it's so easy to make it. Just make it. So I have a half cup of the oat flour. All right, so I'm going to mix that in. I'm also going to add just some leavening here. So I have I have a pinch of salt And then I have a teaspoon of baking soda. And this is just for the leavening. All right, mix that up nicely. And then last up, before we add the chocolate, or no, maybe we're there. Oh, no, I remember. So a little bit of vanilla extract, a teaspoon. This just adds some depth of flavor. You could also add like a little espresso powder or something like that. I've tried it with that. I don't feel like this recipe needs it that much, but you could certainly add that if you wanted a little extra bitter note there. And then last thing we're going to add is chocolate chips. I have about a 1/4 cup here. I've been buying Lily's chocolate chips for years. That is not sponsored. I've reached out to them so many times over the years about working together, and I never hear back. But if you guys are listening out there, Lily's, I love what you're doing. So keep it up. Okay. So now we're going to take our batter and we're going to pour it into the prepared 8x8 pan. You could do this in a 9x13, but just know that you're going to get a much thinner brownie. The shape's going to be a little bit different. So just pouring that in nicely. So this is going to be very wet, so it is going to take a while to cook. This is the hardest part, is waiting for it to be done, honestly. So we're just going to take care of that. Oh, great. I want to get all of it in there. And by the way, you totally could lick the spoon. Don't be afraid. Especially if you're using liquid egg whites that tend to already be pasteurized. I'm just saying. All right. And because we have the oats, because we have the flax in there, they are going to absorb the liquid so nicely to just give us a really lovely texture when it's all done. All right, so this is ready to go in the oven. So as you can see, well, I'm gonna mess it up if I show you, but see, it's a very wet, nice, just even top. I'm gonna put that in the oven. And then I have found that for my oven, I end up needing around 45 minutes. I would say check it after 30, see how things are looking. You'll know it's done when a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. If you find that it starts to burn a little bit, you can put some foil over the top. So just want to make sure you get a nice consistency. When you're done, you have a nice brownie. And see, these are substantial. I hate when you see these healthy brownies and it's this big and it's tiny and it's what is that? Food for ants. So, well, I guess anything is food for ants. But, so this is a really substantial brownie. So on its own as a snack, this is from when I cut it into 9 pieces from the 8x8 pan. That's gonna get you about 140-ish calories, 14-ish grams of protein, around 4 to 5 grams of fiber. If you wanted more fiber, you could always add a fiber powder into that mix. So as a standalone snack, it's awesome. It's covering a lot of bases there because you've got protein, you've got fiber, you've got healthy fats, you've got the fibers coming from complex carbohydrate like the pumpkin and the oats. But if you wanted it to be a meal, so I love to add some Greek yogurt. If you haven't tried it mixed with cocoa powder, amazing. Add a little bit of fruit, some berries, some nut butter on top. It is just, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And these keep great in the freezer. So it's perfect when you just want a really nice, easy breakfast that kind of feels like you're having a brownie sundae. So, I mean, what could be bad about that, right? So anyway, I am so glad that you joined me today. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you try it, I would love to see your creation. So take a picture, post it to your stories, tag me at Jess Cording. And yeah, I'm really happy that you were here with me today. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.